Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for being part of this ceremony this morning. As many of you know, we're going to be having a precept ceremony this morning. And before we started the ceremony, I thought I would give a few words, hopefully not too many words, but just some words that'll kind of talk about the precepts to some degrees that those of you who perhaps are seeing this for the first time, know what it is you're seeing. And so those of you who have gone through something like this can reflect on what it is that we're undertaking this morning. So it's a precept ceremony. Now, precepts are teachings in the Buddhist tradition that help practitioners to see when it is that we are holding on to ideas about reality and not living out life fully as it shows up. And the preceptees have been studying and discussing these precepts for the past 6 weeks. It's been a rather fruitful discussion. And one of the things that came up, at least for me, as we were discussing the precepts, was it was just a reminder, I thought, of what it is that our practice and the teachings point to, which is life. And this is a very important reminder sometimes. It's easy for us to get maybe caught up in the nitty-gritty or the weeds of the teaching. They can be pretty difficult. I was telling my husband very early this morning, I had gone on spring break with him to Los Angeles, and we flew in this morning. And I was pointing out to him that when we, it was very early this morning, that when we, when I step away from the teachings just for a little bit and I pick them back up again, and I'm teaching a course in Dogen's class, or in Dogen's text, Bendoa. And when I pick those back up again, it takes my head a little bit of time to kind of get back into that language. And so it can be very easy for us to get caught up in that language and sort of trying to figure it out and think that that's what the teachings are about. But the teachings are really just pointing us back to life. Life is our teacher. And these teachings, again, just help us to understand, or actually help us to see what it is that we're experiencing, to help get the clutter of our thoughts and ideas out of the way. I thought I would share with you a passage that I encountered as I was preparing for this week's Bendoa class that I thought was really helpful. So this particular book we're reading, which used to be called The Wholehearted Way, includes Dogen's teaching the Bendoa, which means basically wholehearted, the practice of the wholehearted way. And then it has commentary by a 20th century Japanese master, Kosho Uchiyama. And I'm just going to read to you just a little paragraph from his commentary. Uchiyama tells us, Dogen Zenji said, a practitioner should not practice Buddha Dharma, and Buddha Dharma are the teachings of the awakened. A practitioner should not practice Buddha Dharma for his own sake, to gain fame and profit, to attain good results, or to pursue miraculous power. Practice only for the sake of Buddha Dharma. Uchiyama then goes on to say, he says, this is the difficult point of Dogen Zenji's Zazen. Shakyamuni Buddha questioned his own life and practiced Zazen and attained enlightenment. It is the same in the case of Dogen Zenji. The Buddha Dharma lies in the background or as the foundation of Zazen. So the teachings of the awakened are in the background, the foundations of our meditation practice. Without that, our meditation practice would, and this might sound like something that people have heard is a description of our meditation, but without that, what we would be doing is just sitting. But not just sitting in the way that the teachings help us to see, it's just sitting. Again, that would be sitting with Buddha Dharma as its foundation. But just sitting the way we usually do, like we sit down and we go, I'm kind of hungry. I wonder if there's a snack around here I can grab. And oh, look at that. What is that thing on the ground over there? I've had this kind of problem before. Is that an animal or a wrapping for some kind of food that somebody just threw on the ground? And we do these things, we play these little games, and that's not sitting with Buddha Dharma at its foundation. So again, the Buddha Dharma lies in the background or as the foundation of Zazen, of our meditation practice. And then the next part is, and one's own life lies as the foundation of the Buddha Dharma. So life is at the foundation of this without really just fully engaging in life. Buddha Dharma is just words, just words. It becomes teachings of wisdom, teachings that point us towards something when we are watching our life, when we're living our life and paying attention as we live our life. So that's very important. So what we're not doing is reading these teachings and then going and looking at our life and trying to apply the teachings to our life. This came up in our practice period discussion group this morning. Rather, it's we live life and we see what it is that's showing up, but we see it in such a way, again, that's not cluttered by our ideas about how the world is showing up. So just to give you a quick example, as we recite the precepts, the first of the 10 great precepts, and I was just kind of looking around because I'm not sure that people have booklets. Is this correct? So we should, if somebody could just go get booklets and make sure they're distributed. So our first grave precept is that a follower of the way should not kill. And in our discussion group, we discussed so our first great precept is a follower of the way does not kill. And what we discussed in our discussion group is that killing can show up in our lives in other ways than the ways we might normally conceive of killing. So we might think of that as, I don't know, having a gun, and either shooting a deer or shooting another person or whatever it is. That might be our idea of killing, but we can kill a conversation, we can kill a friendship, we can kill a mood, we can kill in all kinds of ways. The precepts, though, as we continue discussing, the precepts also, not only what they do is in pointing out that a follower of the way does not kill, if we find ourselves engaged in the act of killing, if we're killing a conversation, if we're killing a friendship, if we're killing a mood, if we're killing another being, then we can see that we are not on the way. We can see that we've stepped off the way. And the only way, what that means to step off the way is just simply to have some kind of idea about how life is unfolding and living out of that, as opposed to just living out of the reality that's showing up. But the precepts also can help us to see the underlying assumption that is going on as we are caught up in our confusion. And so in that first great precept, there's a teaching that says not nursing a view of extinction is called the precept of not killing. Not nursing a view of extinction. So the assumption that underlies our killing of anything is simply that we can bring it all to an end. That we can bring it to an end. And that's the assumption. And we may not be able to immediately see that. We may not see that that is what it is that we're assuming as we're engaging in whatever it is we're doing that's killing. And it could be a thought, it could be an action, it could be something that we say to somebody. The precept then will help us to see that underlying assumption that we have. In doing that, this is important as well, we don't narrate to ourselves. We don't explain to ourselves. Because that's another thing we do is we might go, okay, why did I do that? And what's interesting about that, if you do that, if you're really going to try to pursue that line of thinking, you're going to find out that that first answer you come up with almost always is the wrong one. Usually that's the easy one. So we might tell ourselves something like, well, the reason that I did that, and this reason you're going to come up with is probably going to be about the situation. You think maybe this was the best thing for you to do. And this is where you let yourself off the hook. So you just kind of go, that was the best thing. You know, that person really needed me to dress them down. That's what needed to happen at that moment. But if you just keep looking, you'll realize that your ego is actually usually under that. So it's what was making you uncomfortable. What did you not want to be there that had you act or say whatever it was that you did? But we don't even have to do any of that narration, because then you can start doing this little game where you, perhaps the first thing you do is you go, what an idiot I am, right? And that can be a very comfortable place to be, to just from the gate come out. It's one of my favorite hobbies. You know, I'm an idiot. I am the Lord of the asses. You know, how can I even exist? You know, that kind of thing. And that's another form of egoism. Now, if you're kind of stroking, creating a self. And now, hey, in a way, you're conflating that self, because I'm always such a loser. If I don't lose in this situation, now I'm really a loser, because that's my thing, is I usually get it wrong, right? So, and there you go. That's the problem with narrations that we tell ourselves, explanations, is they always go into easy channels. They're really hard for us to figure out. Buddha Dharma just says, notice. You may not even see it at first, but if you're noticing that you're killing, just notice that. Just be aware of that. What is taking place reveals itself to you in that noticing. You're actually bringing yourself back to this. You're pulling yourself out of your ideas, so to speak, by paying attention. This might take you a while, though. You might say, Steve, I'm still confused, even when I'm looking at what it is that's going on. That's all right. That's what's taking place. Be right there with your confusion. That's what's difficult for us. So the precepts then don't tell us not to do anything or to do anything. So they don't say you should not do that, or you should do this. And they don't tell us that something is good or something is bad, or that something is right or something is wrong. Rather, they just bring us back to this, so we don't have ideas about what it is that's going on. When we speak in a way that's harmful to others, we see it. We see that that is what's taking place. It's not filtered through. Most people, when they do something like that, like I said, their intention may not be to be harmful, to have harmful speech. There may be something else that's going on in their mind. So again, these precepts then are just to bring us back to this, to see when it is we're grabbing hold of ideas about what it is that's taking place. And that will happen. So again, this isn't saying that if you grab hold of an idea about the world, shame on you. You should never do that. That's what this is telling us. Never do that. We're humans. This is what we do. We come up with ideas about what's going on, and they can come lightning fast, and we may not even know that it's an idea because it's just an assumption. And then we grab hold of it. But until you can see that you're grabbing hold of ideas or conceptions about how it's showing up, until you can see that that's how reality is showing up right now, is you holding a particular view, you're never going to be able to let that go. You'll never be able to actually see what it is that's taking place. The letting go, by the way, isn't the way we think of letting go, which is I'm done with that. The letting go is actually seeing. You think you've got something in your hand, you think you're grasping something, is to see there's nothing there. That is the letting go, but it requires that you actually see what's taking place, because usually we're unconsciously hanging on to something. We have it in our hands. And so what these precepts then do is they invite us to see when it is we're grasping, so that we can start to see what is taking place in our lives, how life is showing up in each moment. And that's why at the beginning of this ceremony, which we'll be starting in just a few minutes, we have a formless admission in which we admit to all of the ways that we've sort of stirred the pot up, so to speak, the way that we've grabbed hold of our conceptions of how reality is showing up. And in doing so, have kind of spread just maybe a little bit, sometimes a little bit more than a little bit of harm in the world out of doing that. So this formless admission then is to admit that, to not think, well, I got to be perfect. I can't do anything wrong, or I can't do anything right. I have to be imperfect all the time, right? Just to let go of that. To acknowledge, and by acknowledging, to admit straying from the path so that we go beyond being on a path or straying from it. Now that came up in our, I thought, in our precept discussion over the past 6 weeks. So today, the preceptees' vows are formally expressing the intention to wake up, which is just to live life as it is, as it truly is, as opposed to how it is that we take it to be, as all beings mutually assisting one another, showing up perhaps as all beings not exactly mutually assisting each other, but that are all beings mutually assisting each other. And it is vow that really is just bringing us right back here. It's bringing our attention to what is actually taking place. So that's what vow is. We talked about this before in another talk. But vow is not a promise to do something in the future. Vow is just, oh, here you are. It's just to bring you right back here to see what it is that's actually taking place. We can't do this practice without vow, without that intention to come back. And that's really what this is, the intention to wake up, to live life out of totality rather than our ideas about it. And why is vow important for that? Because no one's going to do it for us. So if we don't have the intention to wake up, nobody's going to grab you by the lapels and kind of go, wake up. We might hope that somebody would do that, but it's not going to happen because they can shake us all they want. You know what we'll do? Leave me alone. Stop shaking me. I got, we'll defend ourselves against that. So we've got to do it by ourselves. We've got to have the intention to do this. And those of you who are here to participate in this ceremony who are not preceptees, by you being here, you're making explicit and bringing forth this mutual assisting that is the nature of reality by reciting the vows along with the preceptees. And I just invite you, if you're uncomfortable reciting these vows, that's fine. Being here is good enough, but if you would like to recite, I invite you to do that because there's something that happens as the whole room is reciting these precepts. So those are my opening remarks. Do people have any questions or comments before we start the ceremony? All right, we shall begin. Followers of the way of all times and places recite these precepts by first taking refuge in the three treasures. But the Buddha looked into his own heart and mind. There he saw the source of human pain and sorrow. And there also he saw the means of putting pain and sorrow to an end. He said, your refuge is here. You need not look further. You need not cling to anything external. This is called taking refuge in Buddha. The Buddha, the enlightened person you seek, is not apart from where you sit right now. This understanding is called taking refuge in the Dharma. The sanctuary we seek is not found anywhere but in the life we live now as all beings. Thus, receiving these precepts is called taking refuge in the Sangha. But first, we have to admit our folly and ignorance. Not that by doing so we'll ever set things right. To receive these precepts, we must be open and honest with ourselves. We must look at our intention. We must be pure of heart and mind, even in the midst of muddy water. Let us recite the formless admission. All the karma ever created by me, since of old, through greed, anger, and self-delusion, which has no beginning, born of my body, speech, and thought, I now make full open admission of it. We will now receive the three pure precepts. In the presence of all beings, I vow to live in enlightenment. I vow to practice non-injury. I vow to live for the benefit of all beings. Will you continuously observe these precepts?
Yes.
Yes, I will. Will you continuously observe these precepts? Yes, I will. From now on, and even after realizing Buddhahood, will you continuously observe these precepts? Yes, I will. Now we will receive the 10 gray precepts. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the ever-abiding Dharma. Not nursing a view of extinction is called the precept of not killing. A follower of the way does not kill. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the unattainable Dharma. Not producing a thought of attainment is called the precept of not stealing. A follower of the way does not take what is not given. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the unstained Dharma. Not giving rise to a view of attachment is called the precept of not indulging sensual desire. A follower of the way does not engage in sensual misconduct. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the unutterable Dharma. Not speaking a single word is called the precept of not committing false speech. A follower of the way does not speak deceptively. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the intrinsically pure Dharma. Not giving rise to ignorance is called the precept of refraining from intoxicants. A follower of the way does not intoxicate oneself or others. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the flawless Dharma. Not speaking erroneously is called the precept of not speaking of the faults of others. A follower of the way does not slander others. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the undifferentiated Dharma. Not distinguishing between self and other is called the precept of not praising oneself. A follower of the way does not praise self. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the suchness of all-pervading Dharma. Not clinging to a single form is called the precept of not being avaricious. A follower of the way does not possess anything selfishly. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the selfless Dharma. Not measuring a self is called the precept of not giving way to anger. A follower of the way does not harbor ill will. Self-nature is clear and obvious within the one Dharma. Not holding a dualistic view of ordinary and enlightened is called the precept of not abusing the three treasures. A follower of the way does not abuse the three treasures. Will you continuously observe these precepts? Yes, I will. Will you continuously observe these precepts? Yes, I will. From now on, and even after realizing Buddhahood, will you continuously observe these precepts? Yes, I will. And now we will recite the Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the perfection of wisdom, perceived that all five skandhas are empty and was saved from all suffering and distress. O Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is a form is emptiness. That which is an emptiness, form. The same is true of sensations, conceptions, inclinations, perception. O Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear nor disappear, are not tainted nor pure, do not increase nor decrease. Therefore, an emptiness, no form, no sensations, no conceptions, no inclinations, no perception, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness. No ignorance, and also no extinction, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them. No suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment. With nothing to attain, the bodhisattva depends on the perfection of wisdom, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Apart from every perverted, the bodhisattva dwells in the body. All that is past, present, and future depend on the perfection of wisdom and attain unsurpassed, complete, perfect enlightenment. Therefore, know perfection of wisdom is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the perfection of wisdom. Proclaim the mantra that says, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasam Gate, Bodhi Svaha. The Dharma, truth, reality, is here for all to see. But without the help of others and the teaching of the awakened, it is difficult to realize. For this reason, let us express our deep gratitude. In this world of emptiness, may we exist in muddy water with purity like a lotus. Nothing surpasses the boundless mind. Thus we bow to Buddha. So now you are Buddhists. And of course, here's the little trick on that. To be Buddhist is to let go of, now you're Buddhist. But I want to express my deep gratitude for you taking the vow and for all of you for being part of this morning. Thank you.